TRE is actually the main application that kind of makes all of this happen. It's really the heart of all your message casting efforts. It's a single piece of software that you run at the station. Here's the window of TRE now. You can run that for one instance for multiple simulcasts. So if you have an HD2, HD3, you would run an instance of TRE for all of those, and it kind of manages all of your data for you. It gets cues from your automation system. It interleaves that with pre-made scheduled information, so you can send out promotional information and things like that. And it even takes external information, such as weather information, sports scores, and things like that. So for many years we had this program, the radio experience, or the TRE program, and we wanted to look at ways how we can really maximize the use of this data. And when you start broadcasting title and artist on your RES or HD, you quickly realize that 3 or 4 minutes for an entire song is a long time just to display the title and artist and let it scroll over and over again, when I could really be using this time for other things like station promotions, or, as we're going to talk about today, additional ad revenue opportunities. So what we looked at with TRE is how can we really maximize the use of this data. And we came up with a process we call interleaving. And we'll kind of describe interleaving in what looks like here a clock, but it's a 3-minute clock. It's just the duration of a song. So for the whole duration of this song, you're going to see title and artist, and that's traditionally how most people send out their data. A lot of times you just plug it into the automation system, you plug it into your RDS encoder or whatever, and you're good to go. But with the process of interleaving, we can now interleave additional information with the title and artist. So in this case, you see title and artist for 30 seconds, then you see some weather information for 30 seconds, then we actually go back to title and artist, for people that are just tuning in or whatever, they need to see that as well. So we go back to title and artist, and then we take 30 seconds and we maybe go to a station promo, and then another 30 seconds back to title and artist. So you get the way that works. So that's one of the coolest features about TRE that actually allows us to do some of the advertising and non-traditional revenue stuff that we're going to talk about today. So it lets you get those ad messages in during the songs and during the other audio events. We're going to move on to Message Manager. We've looked at TRE, and that's the application that runs at the studio. Message Manager is the cloud application that allows you to obviously manage all the messages that TRE processes. A lot of you are probably familiar with Message Manager 1. We've upgraded in the last couple of years, and we're now on Message Manager 2. And I know some of you, from looking at the names in the attendee list, are using Message Manager 2 today. If you're not using Message Manager 2, it's a free upgrade. All you have to do is call customer service here at Broadcast Electronics and let them know you'd like to move over to Message Manager 2. That is, if you're using Message Manager 1 today, it's a free upgrade. You may need to upgrade your TRE client as well, but that is also a free upgrade if you're currently using Message Manager 1. What we did with Message Manager 2, though, is we completely redesigned it. We got together with a bunch of folks in radio from not only programming but sales, some general managers, some engineers, and we sat in this big conference room for a couple of days and really created a focus group, and we looked at how they could best utilize RDS and HD and these other data casting initiatives to generate non-traditional revenue. And a lot of these stations had already been experimenting with these kind of things, so they already had kind of a foundation and knew where the challenges were and what kind of things needed improved upon. So when we redesigned Message Manager, these are the things we focused on. We focused on creating non-traditional revenue opportunities. We built it to meet real-world needs and to satisfy the challenges that stations were actually having. Another thing we wanted to do is make it easy for everyone at the station to use. So we took the concepts and ideas that stations are used to from the music scheduling world, and we brought them over into the data scheduling world. So the same kind of categories that you use to schedule music, you've got music categories, and you've got your commercial categories and your sweeper categories and your promo categories. We've got all of that here in the Message Manager as well. We've got commercial type messages, we've got promotional type messages, we've got weather type messages, and so on. The other thing we looked at in trying to make this useful for everybody at the station is we wanted to give everybody a clear set of tools and a clear place to go to accomplish what they needed to accomplish. And we did that by starting at the programming level. We wanted to give the the program director ultimate control over what happened on the station. And we do that by allowing them to set up what we call clock blocks. And in the example you see there, these clock blocks are pretty much all based on day part, and you can do that if you want. You don't have to. You could make special clock blocks for, let's say, the special lunch hour show could have its own clock block, or if you had a request show at night, it could have its own clock block. But we're going to keep it simple in this example. We've got one clock block for each day part. So if we were going to go into one of these clock blocks, this is the midday clock block that the program director has created, and you can see that this clock block is going to air weekdays on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 10 to 4. And if you look down at the bottom, you see the block avails. And these are the type of avails that have been programmed into this clock block. So in the midday clock block on our message casting stream, you can see down there there's a pro category, then a com, then a WX, then another pro with a duration behind them. So in this clock block, you're going to see a promotional message for 30 seconds, followed by a commercial message for 30 seconds, followed by a weather message for 30 seconds, and then it'll follow it up again with a promotional message in this particular case. And all the while now, we're interleaving back and forth between these categories and our current playing title and artist because of interleaving that we talked about earlier. So that's one of the tools we have for the programming person. The other one is the types of different messages that they can create. You see there at the top we have some promo messages. We have cover messages, which are really unique, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in the next few minutes. We have some placeholder type messages down there at the bottom. You see a traffic message, and you also see a weather message. What these are really just placeholders in the schedule, and when this schedule makes it back to TRE running at the local station, and TRE comes across a traffic or weather message in the schedule, it knows that it's supposed to retrieve the traffic or weather locally and provide that out on the display. Here's a message entry screen, and this is one where you would you can see the message type there at the top. This is where you would enter a promotional message. The message has a duration. Obviously, it has the different outputs for your RDS, your HD, and your web text. I'm going to assume that most of the people attending today are familiar with the differences in RDS display, and you've got your radio text and you've got your DPS. And in the case of your DPS, it's unique. It's 8-character blocks, and we have a tool for entering that there as well. If anybody isn't clear on radio text and DPS or would like to know more about it, feel free to ask a question at the end or contact me. I'll make that contact information available later. But I think for the sake of the majority in here today, we're all pretty familiar with that. And then down below you can see the day part and the message dates for this particular message. So you can actually schedule the message, and then when it's expired, the system will actually stop running it automatically for you. Another tool we felt it important for programming to have is an overview of what messages could possibly run when. Now, it's important to note that the TRE software is really kind of dynamic. It responds to what's happening in the automation system. So even though you have events that are scheduled in TRE, you can't for sure know today at 3:20 this particular message is going to display, because TRE is taking its ultimate cues from the automation system. It's really an event-driven system rather than a schedule-driven system. But what we can know is that here's a list of messages that could possibly run at 3:20 this afternoon, and that's what this overview gives you. So we're looking at a Wednesday schedule here, and if you look in the midday and you look at 11 o'clock and draw your finger down, you can see the first message you're going to hit is a midday message. It's a 10-second long message. That could possibly run today or Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Or if you scroll down, there's a radio ads, there's a generic message, a traffic, a weather, and a couple of commercial messages. So anything under that midday at 10 or 11 o'clock could run at those times, but we can't exactly say for sure what will happen, again, because TRE is taking the ultimate cue from the automation system. So those are the tools for programming, and again, we wanted to give them ultimate control where they can create these clock blocks, and then sales can come along later and set up their messages that the clock block would call on. And one of the things we wanted to do before we created a system for the sales folks to use is try to understand how they used it and what kind of needs they had to make it the most useful for them. And what we discovered are there really two types of advertising that work really well on RDS and HD. And the reason there are two is because it gets really tough, especially in this age of email spam and Twitter spam, and everywhere you look, you're seeing different advertiser messages and what everybody's calling spam. So you want to avoid that. You really want to avoid giving your listener the feeling that they're getting spam shoved in their face everywhere they look. So one of the ways to do this is with something that we call high-impact ads, and that is just giving them a single advertiser to run for the duration of a day or a couple days. So every time they look down at the radio, they're not seeing a different ad message from a different advertiser. It's a single advertiser all day long. And generally, you want to make sure that that advertisement or that advertiser has some kind of meaning for why it's running. For example, a flower shop before Mother's Day, or maybe a car lot before some big weekend sale or something like that. So you want to give it relevance to them. You want to make it timely for them rather than just a bunch of ad messages that they're going to get annoyed with and possibly ignore. That also gives you the benefit of being able to super serve your advertiser. You can't go to your advertiser and say, we're going to give you a whole day's worth of commercials on the radio. But you can go to them and you say, we're going to give you the entire day on the data display. Now that does bring up another possible issue, and that's what happens if our data advertiser happens to be the Ford dealer and we have an audio commercial coming up for the Chevy dealer. What happens if those two display at the same time? Well, the software will give you the tools to prevent that from happening. We have what I spoke about earlier is cover messages. And cover messages is what prevents your data advertiser from showing up at the same time or conflicting with your audio advertiser. And when we created this cover message system and we spoke with this focus group, somebody else brought up, now wait a minute, if I'm showing a commercial on the audio, I realize I don't want to show any advertisers that could conflict with that commercial, but I don't even want to ID the station. I don't want my listener to look down, hear a commercial, look down and see my call letters or my slogan and instantly associate me with playing commercials all the time. So we've got this cover message system, and anytime the automation system is playing an audio commercial, TRE can process a specific message that you've predetermined, and that can be something like more music coming up next. It could be something like, for more information on these advertisers, visit this website. Anything really that you can think of, but it's a message that prevents your data advertisers from conflicting with your audio advertisers. And that is completely optional. It's there if you want to use it. If it's not going to be an issue for you, you don't have to use it. But that's a feature built into the new Message Manager 2 called Cover Messages. Now, I said there were two types of ads that we looked at. High-impact ads is one.